Chapter 18. While Kevin was putting his full energy into destroying an alien starship, 4 of the human defence squad were passing time on the landing deck. Pa and Martina climbed back into the cab of the van, partly because it was easier to roll joints on the dashboard, but mostly because Sandra was describing another theory. Faf didn't seem bothered. Have you ever woken up with a headache? Do you mean after a load of drinks, Sandra, or just any time at all? Any time at all. Yeah, sometimes I suppose. Well, that's because vibrations in your dreams were trying to align with interdimensional beings. A series of explosions boomed in the distance. You see, Hybobolus himself vibrated at the same frequency as interdimensional beings. He did what? He vibrated. His body became a receiver for their insights. It's one of the only times they've contacted humans directly. That sounds like when Barry Davy picked up 2FM at the Strawberry Fair. What do you mean, Faf? His brain just started picking up radio broadcasts. Really? Are you sure? Oh yeah, you should have been there. You would have loved it. He started channeling Larry Gogan's quiz and everything. First we thought he was messing, but then we turned on the radio and sure enough it was exactly the same. Crack. The ship groaned and creaked. Its lights flickered as more explosions rumbled. Well, anyway, the interdimensional beings told Hybobolus that Earth would be attacked by cosmic automatons and it would happen at the end of the 20th century. Oh, Barry didn't say anything like that. And I was with him for the whole day. It became known as the third prophecy of Hybobolus Clune. He called it his cosmic revelation. You learn something new every day. I must have seen every episode of The X-Files, and I've never heard of that. Not many people have. Nobody ever really paid much heed to Hybobolus. Probably because the church said he was a nut and kicked him out of the monastery. Crack! The ship groaned and creaked. The lights flickered, and a low rumbling passed underneath the floor. Bleep! Enemy patrol in close approach, announced the Mega Drive. Bleep! They are on high alert, advised the Mega Drive. Bleep! They will vaporize you all, warned the Mega Drive. Pa stuck his head out of the driver's side window. Lads, do you hear that? We should think about moving. The Mega Drive reckons aliens are heading this direction. The floor rumbled again. Pa and Martina stepped back out of the van. Does anyone know what time it was when Jerry headed off? Martina glanced around her, but there was no response. It has to have been a half hour ago. What do you reckon? There was still no response. Bleep! The enemy are alert to your presence, informed the Mega Drive. Lads, we're going to have to do something. We can't wait here any longer. Where else can we wait? Nowhere. You don't need to be Jerry McLaughlin to figure out the ship is coming apart. Martina looked around the group again. We have a choice to make. Or maybe we don't. We could spin back to Earth right now and hope Jerry did what was needed to save the world that time. You mean make the spaceship paranoid? Yeah, that. Or we could do the right thing and bring himself, Kev, and Billy back with us. Bleep! You cannot match the enemy weaponry, noted the Mega Drive. You know, earlier in the night, I thought it was fate that had me warning you about the invasion. Sandra opened her mouth to speak. In a minute, Sandra, continued Martina. But then I was not so sure. Then I got really, really stoned. And then I thought I was going to die. And now I'm sure again. Bleep! The enemy patrol is getting closer, warned the Mega Drive. We need to go. What I'm saying is, I know what I want to do. But well, we each need to look at ourselves and our lives, to decide. You're freaking out again, Martina. Bleep! The enemy patrol is getting closer, repeated the Mega Drive. To decide if you want to risk them by going to fetch Kev and Jerry and Billy and my stereo. I thought that's where we were at. Why the fuck else would we be hanging about up here? Bleep. You're being targeted by a photon cannon, advised the Mega Drive. They're here, roared Pa. Get in the van. Rap. The van was knocked sideways. Pa, Martina and Faf were thrown from their feet. A pulse of white light covered the room, briefly absorbing every other colour. The explosion swallowed 2 short-range fighters and would have vaporised the van had they not been in the way. It was several seconds before the dust settled. From a Zardonian point of view, the van then left the landing bay incredibly quickly. Too quick to mount any kind of response. For Sandra, Pa, Faf and Martina, it seemed to leave incredibly slowly, and in total silence, or at best with a dull ringing in their ears. Sandra was driving. She had hauled Martina and Pa into the cab. Faf was in the back. Bleep, you were heading towards a heavily fortified command centre, warned the Mega Drive. Nobody heard it. Now, Zardonians are known throughout the universe for their fighting prowess. Underpinning this is another ability, one which is less famous, but arguably more important. That is the ability to document, classify, and clarify everything they encounter. Their Zardonian commander could not record what was happening, half because he didn't know, and half because the ship's computer was suffering what appeared to be an electronic nervous breakdown. The only thing he could be certain of was that his crew had all but lost the battle for Earth. He began to consider the possibility of the Zardonian space fleet going without a flagship, and made an announcement. All crew, search the ship. Every human must die. Repeat, every human must die. Kevin crawled quickly. The smell of shite was getting stronger. Fighters were running around above him, but he could hear more static activity too, like a control room. He strained his ears and struggled to believe his luck. The shit was leading him straight to the centre of alien operations. Solo. Undetected. With an alien rifle. He crawled some more and paused to listen. A single alien command bellowed all around and then repeated itself, making hearing anything else almost impossible. Shut up, ye cunt! Kevin, is that you down there? Came the voice. It belonged to Jerry McLaughlin. What's it to you if it is? Fucking hell, Kevin, I've been looking everywhere for you. We need to go. The lads are waiting for us over on the landing deck. A floor panel slid away above him and light flooded into the crawl space. Jerry McLaughlin's smiling face beamed down. Kevin climbed out onto the floor and carefully lifted the weapon with him. Fuck off, Jerry, I'm trying to save the world. I've already done that. Oh, we need to get out of here before this whole place disintegrates. My arch it did. An army of aliens and a starship says different. Piss off and leave me at it. Jerry took a step backwards and eyed the weapon. What's your problem, Kevin? You. You're my problem, you slimy bastard. Why don't you just go back to pretend aliens on your computer? It's not so easy to cheat when it's the real thing, huh? I don't understand. Yeah, you do. You've been using a computer code against me. What are you talking about, Kevin? I'm talking about the code. The one you use to clear zero tolerance. The one you've been using this last year to pretend you're deadly at computers. You might fool everyone else, but not me. I've no clue what you're on about. You know fine well you fucking cheat. I don't know anything about a code. Whatever has you wound up is inside in your own head. Oh yeah? Well then explain SYS 4551 to me then. What? You heard. SYS 4551. Don't pretend you know nothing about it. I saw it flash up on your screen before zero tolerance. That's the loading code, you mad bastard. Huh? The load code. Comes with the game. Huh? The code to show you what version it is. How can you not know that? Now, crewman T631 crouched into a shadow close to the wall. and dropped to one knee. He silently measured the distance to his targets. It was not difficult. They were both standing in the middle of the corridor, shouting loudly at each other. This moment was what all his training had been for. His mind, his body, and his weapon were now one thing. And that thing was a means of delivering pain and death. Crewman T-631 began his firing sequence. Thunk! 3.5 tons of automotive engineering, a games console, and 4 adult humans collided with the embodiment of Zardonian prowess. It was possible to repair the van with a new front grille and left side headlight, but nothing could be done for the Zardonian infantryman. Watch where the fuck you're going, Sandra. You gotta run Kev and Jerry McLaughlin over. What? Kev and Jerry, they're right in front of you. I can't hear you. My ears are ringing. Stop, 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 stop! The van skidded to a halt before Jerry and Kevin. Move over and let me do the driving. Fuck's sake. You need to watch for things in front of you when you're going forward, Sandra. The van was now sideways in the centre of a large access corridor. Just visible ahead was the entrance to the control room. It still bore the scars of Jerry and Paz's earlier visit, but this time the aliens were taking no chances. They had barricaded the door behind a line of steel shuttering. Sarna jumped out of the driver's side of the van and shut the door after her. Pat climbed into the driving seat. Jerry walked over to the van while Kelvin continued on his way along the corridor. Pat stuck his head out of the window. Up in, Jerry. We were attacked in the landing bay. We all need to head. Stop shouting. There's aliens about. What? Can't hear you. Keep your voice down. Jerry leaned in close to Pa and glanced towards Kevin. Look, say nothing, but we might have a bit of bother getting that fella to leave. He wants to attack the control centre single-handed. That sounds risky. Are you sure? Jerry nodded grimly. Pa turned to Martina and gestured towards the passenger door. He pointed it behind him. You better get out, so, and make sure Faf is out too. Martina and Faf joined Jerry and Sandra outside the van. Pa revved the engine. Jerry stared blankly at the others and back to Pa. What the fuck are you doing? Pa flashed a solemn thumbs up. No problem! The van accelerated away. It was close to full speed by the time it passed Kevin. It then ploughed headlong into the control room.